Hi guys, it is April from Getting Hoga with It. Today I wanted to share with you some books that I think would be the perfect fall reads. It is getting chilly outside. These are the books that I think you should hunker down with this autumn. Let's get into it. So I have 8 books that I think are perfect for the fall, like literally perfect. Get yourself a cup of tea, get yourself a throw blanket, throw on the gas fireplace if you've got one, or light a candle, and like you're good with any of these books. The first book that I would recommend to you for fall is Affinity by Sarah Waters. This may or may not be one of 2 Sarah Waters on this list. Sarah Waters just screams fall to me. She's very atmospheric, very gothic writer. In this book, we follow a woman named Margaret Pryor. She is upper class. She tried to commit suicide, and so her punishment basically for that is she has to go and work in a jail, in the women's jail. She goes there, and that's where she meets a woman named Selena. Now Selena is there because she conducted a seance that went terribly wrong. It left an older woman dead and a young woman really completely disturbed. And they start having a relationship. They become friends, they get to know one another, and it is about learning about both of their pasts and finding out what happened at that seance. I loved this book. This was my first Sarah Waters, and it was like just gripping and something that I'd actually really like to reread. And this takes place in September, which is fantastic timing. Another book that is definitely perfect for fall, but I think a lot of people would agree and have probably already had this on their radar, but I had to tell you, it's Jane Eyre. Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. This is a wonderful book. It's a growing up story, and we follow Jane Eyre when she's very young and very unhappy, living with her cousins and her aunt. She eventually leaves and goes to school, and we meet her along the way in her life, and she eventually ends up taking a governess job and going and taking care of a small child. And she meets a man there named Mr. Rochester. It's a classic, and if you haven't read Jane Eyre yet, this is the perfect time of the year to read it. It really is. So go get yourself some Jane Eyre. A nonfiction that I think is literally perfect for fall is The Little Book of Hoga. This would also be perfect for winter, let's be clear. It really would. But I don't know about you, but at this time of year, I need to have things cozy. Like, I must turn on a candle, or light a candle, I should say, when I get home from work. I have to have the fireplace on. I have to have my throws about. I feel like baking at this time of year, and all of these things are very much hygge. And this is like a crash course in how to introduce hygge into your life, and I definitely would recommend this hygge book over any others. It is written by Make Weeking, who's the Happiness Research Institute director from Copenhagen. So it's wonderful. It will talk about it'll go so into detail. It'll talk about like how many candles Danish people have lit in a given evening or over the course of a year, like unbelievable details about hygge. This one really could be read, I guess, at any other time of year. Like, I would definitely read this at any time, but it's so scary that to me it reminds me of fall. And that's I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. Short and sweet. This is about a woman who is on a road trip with her boyfriend, but she's thinking of ending things. She's just not feeling it. Unfortunately, they're on the way to meet his family, like his parents, and she's having these thoughts. In the meantime, she keeps getting these phone calls that she keeps putting to voicemail and kind of putting off in her mind. And whoever's calling keeps leaving these creepy messages, and it is so disturbing and unsettling, and you'll have no idea what's going on until the end. And that's the whole point of I'm thinking of ending things. Another governess story is a fairly new one, came out in August. It's The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. This is a retelling of The Turn of the Screw, which I loved, by Henry James. If you haven't read that, I mean, truthfully, you can totally read this without having read that. I think you'll just appreciate it a little bit more if you've read The Turn of the Screw, but that's just me loving on that book. This follows a woman named Rowan Kane. She's kind of down on her luck. She takes care of kids at this like daycare center. Now she sees this post for a nanny gig, and she'd be leaving England, I think, and moving to the Scottish Highlands, where these two architects have this beautiful smart home. And she goes and wants to take this post. Unfortunately, what she doesn't realize is that the smart home is going to start playing tricks on her, and all of these creepy things are going to start happening at this home pretty much off the bat. Like, it really does happen quickly. There's not a lot of lag time, and this is just such a great page turner, and I definitely recommend reading it this fall if you haven't already. Another book that's gothic and just, I think, perfect for fall is The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. This is about a woman who works with her dad. Her dad has a bookshop that she works at, and she's also written some biographies that are really not well known. Well, one day she is summoned basically to the house of Vida Winter, who is a very prolific author. This author has a very mysterious past, so much so that, you know, people have tried to interview her before, and she's told them all sorts of stories about her childhood and her history, and then they'll try to like investigate it, and it's all lies. She's just lying about her past. But she decides that, yes, I will tell you my actual life story, but only you. And so we meet her in this beautiful old home. In my mind, it was always old and kind of Victorian. And I really enjoyed this book, and I think it's perfect for the fall. Now, a book that I think would be really good for the latter half of fall, when, you know, maybe the first snows start to come in. It's not quite winter, it's not quite fall anymore. That in-between time is The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. We meet Lyra in this book, and she lives at Jordan College. One day her uncle, Lord Asriel, comes to the college where she's being raised, and she ends up kind of involving herself and kind of being involved in this mystery of stolen children. She meets polar bears and witches, and it's just such an amazing adventure. Now, the sequel to The Book of Dust is coming out in October, and I just think that if you haven't read The Golden Compass and the whole series, I mean, this is the perfect time to do that. So good. So good. Finally is the last Sarah Waters, and you knew I had to include The Little Stranger on the list. The Little Stranger is a haunted house story. It's a ghost story, but it is also historical fiction. So if you mostly read historical fiction and you want a little bit of creepiness but not overwhelming, I would totally recommend reading this book. This is about a doctor who comes to take care of a sick servant at this house that's very much falling apart. He remembers the house from his childhood because his mom used to work there. But since then, it's definitely fallen from grace. Nobody really lives there anymore except this mother and her 2 adult children, a man and a woman. And so this doctor kind of gets involved with the family, and it shows the rise of the middle class, the doctor, and the crumbling of the aristocracy. And in the meantime, you're learning about all of these characters, but there's also a ghost. And those scenes are so terrifying because they come out of nowhere. At least I was terrified. And I just think a crumbling old house with ghosts. I mean, could you get any more autumnal than this? Probably not. So those are all of the books that I would definitely recommend that you pick up in the fall. Let me know in the comments below what you would have recommended for a fantastic fall book. I am always on the lookout for a good fall book. I hope you're doing well, and I'll talk with you soon. Bye, guys.